Hello everybody, and welcome back to the show where I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want. And today, we are finally finishing up with Danganronpa V3. This video is the full retrospective on V3 as an entire game. A series I've been working on for over a year now. But before we start, I just want to start by thanking you all so much for all the support I've been given on this channel. Whether it be just viewing, commenting, liking, or even subscribing, what you guys have done for this channel is a dream come true for me. And I'm so excited for what comes next with this channel. But another thing is that there's a surprising amount of you guys that aren't subscribed. I decided to check my watch time on my videos, and it turns out that 96.3% of you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, which is crazy. If I were to get all of you guys to subscribe, imagine what kind of stuff we could do. So make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, like, and comment for today's question of the day, which I'm now starting, which is, which Danganronpa V3 chapter is your favorite? Let me know in the comments and I'll try to respond to as many of you guys as possible. But moving on from all that, let's get straight into chapter 1, where we can finally talk about Kaede. Imagine you had a girlfriend, or a boyfriend if you're a girl. Now imagine if you guys were having the best time of your life, and then they fucking murder someone. So then, without knowing that they're the one who murdered them, you stare at a dead body wondering what the fuck just went wrong with your life, how you ended up in this situation, and then all of a sudden a fucking bear comes out of nowhere and tells you that you have to do a class trial to figure out who the hell murdered this guy, and the whole time it figures out that your girlfriend or boyfriend is the one who killed him. Welcome to the life of Shuichi Saihara, who is now our main protagonist after the events of chapter 1, where Kaede decided to get a little silly. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel where I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want. And today, we are talking about Danganronpa V3's very first chapter. Well, Trey, what happened in chapter 1? Well, I'm so glad you asked. And you know what? That's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna go through all of chapter 1, talk about my thoughts, my opinions, the good and the bad, and most definitely the ugly. There is no ugly. This is one of the best chapters I've ever had. Danganronpa V3's first chapter has to be one of the best introductions to a video game I've ever seen. It's a beautiful, complete story about leadership, truth, what it means to live, and of course, trust. But most importantly, how to absolutely destroy that trust and then get yourself killed later on. You know how in my last video, I said that each V3 chapter teaches you something about humanity, specifically speaking, the humanity of the cast? Yeah. This is absolutely no exception. I think Kaede is one of the most human characters I've seen since Sayaka from DR1. In that respect, they actually share quite a lot of similarity. Qualities. Oh my. In that respect, they actually share a lot of similar qualities in both their persona. A
lot of similar qualities in both their personalities and their chapters.
But I mean, despite those similarities, if there's one thing that's different between the two, it's that, you know, people actually like Kaede. But let's be real, this chapter and trial have been talked about to death online, so hopefully I could say something that hasn't already been said before. But with no further delay, let's just dive straight in. Welcome back to the channel where I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want. Today, we're talking about the first chapter of Danganronpa V3. Now, starting where we left off, chapter 1 is about 5 days long, and it is all about Kaede and Shuichi. But we'll get to those fucking screen hogs in a moment. The first chapter is meant to introduce you to not just the characters, but also the world. To start off, the place you'll be spending all your time embarking on a journey through this unfamiliar story and environment. You get to see people have fun, make memories, make friends, get hurt, lose their loved ones, die. Hell, I think this chapter does an excellent job at setting up your surroundings. But seriously, that scene where they discover that huge fucking cage is genuinely excellent. It leaves everyone sitting for a minute asking themselves. And even though the school isn't fully finished yet, there is plenty of attention to detail that I can really appreciate about this game that I can't quite say the same about the other games. I mean, the fact that you're even able to go outside is pretty different compared to the other games. Now, these high school degenerates finally have grass to touch, but even then, it clearly doesn't matter since Mew gets worse and worse each and every chapter.
Girl, I own you, little bitch. You can't play this game, man. Get out of the tank, and then we'll
So she gets murked. There was literally an interview actually done where the environment was one of the questions. The idea that Kaede ultimately killing someone could be attributed to the environment around her rather than her going crazy herself. I think it's excellent. The idea around the environment being something that drove her to do something she likely wouldn't have done in any other circumstance, that's awesome. It also reminds me of a fucking COD lobby. Rest in peace, Mew. You would have loved MLG. That's something you can't look past. I'd argue that's something you cannot say about the fucking paradise in Danganronpa 2. Trigger Happy Havoc had this happen to Sayaka, which is why it's so genius. Because Sayaka's death is one of the strongest starts to a Danganronpa game there is, obviously other than this one. The music is great too. Even though it stays the same throughout the whole game, it's used excellently to its best extreme here. I mean, Claire de Lune has to be one of the best usages of classical music I've seen in video games in a very long time. And I love classical music. That's how I'm able to play Valorant without losing my goddamn mind! For every moment, there's a song for it, only elevating the moment that much more. I'm super thankful Kaede being the ultimate pianist. She really puts it all together, despite, dying before we could hear any of her stuff. And even besides the music, her and Shuichi as a group make every moment feel that much better. I mean, they literally do everything together. They eat together, drink together, hold hands together, pee together. It's genuinely amazing how they don't get tired of each other. From the first moment either of them walks out of the dorm, the other one is right there in the doorway. Even in moments before what they thought would be their death, they're together, alone. The bond they built throughout the prologue and the first chapter is unmatched compared to any other game's first chapter. You could say Makoto and Sayaka built a strong bond, but honestly, I'd argue no. Makoto and Sayaka's bond was almost fake to a level. I'd say the focus of the chapter is less on their relationship and more on Makoto and how he realizes the dangers of blind trust, their relationship being an example of that. They really didn't share that many intimate moments, nor did they cooperate on anything really. At the end of the day, it was really just Makoto constantly trying to get Sayaka to calm the fuck down after something insane happened. To me, it didn't feel like a real relationship beyond the exposition we were given about their past. The idea that you could make the argument about whether or not Sayaka's affection is genuine or not, in and of itself is quite telling. Something that absolutely cannot be said for Kaede and Shuichi. Their relationship is undeniable. At the start of Chapter 1, Monokuma introduces the first blood perk, and immediately, Kaede and Shuichi get to work. They don't fuck around because with no hesitation, Shuichi uses his honestly insane detective skills to figure out if there's a fucking mastermind and a possible traitor. And that's something that took everyone in the other games far more time to figure out, except for Kyoko, obviously. But I mean, of course, nothing good ever lasts because literally the next day there's a time limit introduced. So now we have to find a way to end the entire goddamn killing game in 3 days. And I mean, as you'd expect, everyone is mortified because what the fuck do you mean I have 3 days to live? I genuinely lose my mind. What's funny is I'm sure everyone else would have too. But thankfully, Kaede and Shuichi had each other. Despite that, Kaede clearly had other plans. Kaede is like the rest of us, human. She's a girl scared out of her mind, trying to escape this horrible situation she's in. What makes her different is her sense of justice. Her environment psyched her out, twisting her values to do the very thing Monokuma wants. No amount of care or love from Shuichi can change the fear you get from a killing game. Her insane sense of justice to save everyone was twisted directly to the opposite of what it used to be. No matter how many times you tell yourself you'd never kill, some people inevitably fall victim to the suffocating feeling of impending death. But most of all, of everything this chapter shows us, where it's truly at is without a doubt, I'm sure you're expecting, the trial. And Rentaro dying. Kaede is an emotional, overpositive leader who struggles when things don't go her way. Stuck in an emotionally charged situation like a killing game, twisted her values to make her the worst person she could be. And even though she's not literally a murderer, she basically is. She made the decision to destroy Shuichi's trust and try to murder the mastermind the only way she knew how. A mistake very similar to Sayaka, which she paid far too high a price for. A mistake I'd say any of us would make if we were in her situation. A murder that, despite there being a first blood perk, she refused to take, and there we have another trial now, despite her being able to fully just run off with it. A person that is so true to her emotions, her feelings, and her care for the people around her. She murdered not because she wanted to get out, but because she stuck to her values of trying to save everyone she could. And if she couldn't help anyone, then the best she can do is help Shuichi get through his problems through the trial. Now, I'm sure there's no doubts that people think Kaede and Shuichi are definitely very human. Their characters are well written and intertwined very well with each other. They bounce off each other just like any best friends in real life would. And of course, the first chapter is rather contained. Nobody's really built relationships with each other yet. And despite that, we were still able to find a connection as human as this. In the first chapter of Danganronpa V3, through Kaede, we learn truly how human each and every one of these characters are. And as we move forward to chapter 2, I want to continue with that notion, and we'll see even more so how these characters are so much different from characters from previous games. But before we dive into chapter 2, I got a question for you. Have you ever had that friend that you knew a really long time ago and you stopped talking to, only for them to suddenly grow up to be a fucking huge, rich, famous person, and you're like, fuck, I should have been better friends with them? Yeah, I'm sure you all have. But imagine how Kirumi's friends feel. Danganronpa V3's second chapter was brilliant, but also so stupid at times. I think it gets far more hate than it deserves, and frankly, not enough praise. On one hand, it's excellently written, and continues the quality of the first chapter sets on a storytelling perspective, although with considerably less spectacle than you'd expect. I honestly think the people who played this chapter deeply misunderstood it, so hopefully in this video I'm able to shed some light on what makes it just as good as the first chapter. But I mean, what am I waiting for? Let's just jump straight into it. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the show where I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want. And we're back talking about Danganronpa V3. The second chapter in Danganronpa has typically followed a very distinct pattern of being a defining moment for a character that serves a far greater purpose to the plot as a whole. I mean, in Danganronpa 1 you had Chihiro with his ChatGPT, plus the biggest plot twist of them all, Toko secretly being the best character in the entire game. And then you have Peko and Fuyuhiko with their secret relationship. Chapter 2 has always been the chapter that you can rely on to have a defining moment. We go into chapter 2 of V3 expecting something similar. Right? What do you think this is? Here's the thing. V3 has always been about being different. Kodaka made sure to tell us himself that when it comes to writing V3, his most important priority was making sure that it was different from the other two games. Developers seem to have a weird obsession with this. I mean, whether it be this... Actually, that's the only example I have. It's been a while since I've played a Nintendo game. The question is, with V3, what should you make different? Whether it be playing as a woman, having a protagonist be a twink, or having a goofy looking character be an actually decent person, or adding gambling to the game. V3 has shown time and time again, it's not afraid of change. One might argue though, wouldn't having chapter 2 serve a greater purpose be a good thing? Why would you change it? And that's a great question. I, as the best Danganronpa analyst there is to ever exist, I have an answer for you. I'm not sure. Even if it isn't a testament to the message of the entire game, I'd argue that Danganronpa 1's third chapter didn't... Oh, wait, actually, that's a bad example. I argue that Danganronpa 2's third chapter didn't... Oh, God, that's an even worse example, because it was bad and it served a narrative purpose. Okay, what about Danganronpa 2's very first chapter? Danganronpa 2 isn't exactly known for having character development, so I'm sure that this chapter, although impactful, didn't have anything to do with the main message of the game. The characters who died in that chapter didn't serve a narrative purpose past their deaths. And most importantly, it's still an excellent chapter, right? Right. And since we know that Danganronpa 2's first chapter is a good chapter, wouldn't it be unfair to call V3's second chapter bad despite having a lot of similarities to Danganronpa 2's first chapter? V3's second chapter has characters die that don't really have an impact on the rest of the story, but it's consistent with the themes of the story. That's what matters. That aside though, chapter 2 does a lot of setup. As you'd expect, the outcome of the trial has plenty of foreshadowing. It sets up pre-existing relationships for our third chapter, and reinvigorates the themes of the game, which we may not have previously been made aware of. I mean, to start, having Shuichi be mourning over Kaede's death is refreshingly realistic, and you'll see as the story goes on that he never truly gets over her. Despite that, this chapter is where he finally takes a step towards the future.
Something that Kaede worked tirelessly as if it was a 9 to 5 to make him do.
But what I like most is that we finally get to widen the lens a little bit and learn something about the other characters other than just those two. Now we can finally focus on people like Kaito, who we learn in this chapter is an avid gambler. Let's be honest, isn't this the true realism we were looking for all along? That aside though, we get to see other characters make impacts like Don't, Coach, Ryoma, Kirumi, Kaito, Angie, and Himiko. This is also the chapter where I even start to warm up to Tenko a little bit, because despite her sexist demeanor, there are several instances in early chapter 2 where Tempo shows a lot of kindness towards Shuichi despite him being a boy. Speaking of Shuichi, Kaito plays a huge role in Shuichi's healing process. I mean, this dude comes out of nowhere and starts forcing him to work out. Where was my Kaito during a certain virus? I was getting huge, and not in a good way. That aside though, Kaede is an amazing friend. Look forward to seeing so much more from him, because as I'm sure you can tell, he plays a vital role in Shuichi's continued development, but also to the themes of the game as a whole. But now, let's finally talk about Angie and Himiko. Their magic show is excellent. It's honestly underrated how well it works as a setup to chapter 3, but also as a precedent to Ryoma's eventual, body discovery. Maybe it's my guilty pleasure, but it's always nice to see the students all hanging out together and having fun, only for it to go horribly wrong. The magic show aside from being a stage, pun intended, for the body discovery, it serves as a secondary purpose of being a literal representation of Himiko and Angie's unity, both in how it started and how it ended. The first time we see Himiko, she gives a speech about how she's using Atua as a form of escapism to get through her fear of stress. It's honestly a moment you don't see a lot of people talk about. It's one of those weird moments of transparency that you don't expect someone like Himiko to talk about. It's just another example of this cast being evidently more realistic and relatable than characters of the previous games. It's interesting to see how Angie's influence quickly spreads in chapter 3, as Angie's own way of helping the students is by creating a divine paradise within the school itself. Starting with Himiko, you can see as Angie starts to gain more and more and more influence through her religion. Honestly though, how bad really is it? There's plenty of questions of morality wavering in the minds of the player in chapter 3. I'm excited to talk about this chapter because of all chapters, I think it's by far the most thought-provoking and the most misunderstood. That aside though, every student has their own idea how to save everyone, and this is Angie's, similar to how Kaede's was to kill the mastermind, and the many other plans that are hatched by several other characters as we go on. I think the magic show represents Angie's religion in its entirety. It's a seemingly harmful event which purposefully made to pull the character's attention away from reality. Similarly to her religion, in which she uses Atua as a literal escape, as she describes it as Atua taking over her body when she does her art. This is, of course, as any form of escapism, terribly temporary, which causes the characters to be forcefully snapped back to reality upon the revelation that yet another student has died. And since the magic show is an extension of Angie's religion as a whole, as I'm sure you can guess, there will be plenty of parallels between them, as the magic show will absolutely foreshadow the painful after effect of such. The point in the story where the characters are snapped back to reality from Angie's religion, much like the challenge show, has yet to come, as her religion isn't gone into full swing quite yet. The magic show is quickly cut short, as our favorite memorable tennis pro, although fun, is needless. Wait, what? Sorry, I got lost in my script. Our favorite. whatever. Tennis Pro has bitten the dust. Ooh, Jesus. But aside from what happens during the chapter itself, one thing that I was very critical about was the... At first, I wasn't a big fan of it, but actually one thing I did realize when replaying it just now is that it's actually really fun.
Haha, bitch! Caught you soaking wet and red-handed!
I think that the trial before intermission, where we start to really narrow it down on who could be doing what, I won't lie, it's actually a really enjoyable class trial. I have never laughed so much in a class trial when Miu's talking, and I think Kokichi's brutality is nothing short of just so fun to listen to. So when I say the trial's lacking, I guess I'm really talking about the mystery aspect of it, and then we're starting to really narrow down the culprits. Because before that, I was having a blast playing. I thought this was one of the funniest trials to date.
Did you forget the gym's not open at nighttime, dick cheese?
Dick cheese?
I thought Kokichi did an amazing job at being funny but also critical. Especially the point where he was trying to force Maki and Kaito to fight against each other for innocence. How fucking evil can you be? And then on top of that, there was so much emotional value by the end. And oh, don't even get me started on the post-trial scene and the execution. It was just great all around. So honestly, when I say that the trial is lacking, I'm really just talking about the mystery. The trial itself though, although fun, is needlessly complicated. I mean, the mystery itself is total nonsense to me. Why on earth would you use your gloves to slide down a zipline and create incriminating evidence? Couldn't you just use a substitute? What about a towel? Wait, why even move the body in the first place? Couldn't you have just drowned him and left him there? Did you absolutely need to overcomplicate the murder and create more evidence for yourself? Did you really just want to subject the GOAT to that much suffering? He gave you his life. What the fuck is wrong with you? Thankfully, the mystery isn't what I'm here to discuss. It's the characters. I honestly feel like Ryoma's death and its meaning fly over the head of quite a few players, especially when you juxtapose his death to Kurumi's motive, as well as the big twist of V3 in its entirety. So, you know, spoilers for that, I guess. Ryoma's life and character is defined by his endless journey for a sense of purpose. The idea that when he told Shuichi that the reason he wanted to die was because he was actually jealous of other people who had things to live for was supposed to represent the idea that Ryoma was a lonely man who didn't know what to do with himself. Contrast this to, you know, Kirumi, who had way too much to live for. I mean, I would have worked tirelessly to fulfill that duty. I mean, she already believed that she had to do it in a scenario like this, but it only makes sense for Ryoma to lay down his life for the purpose he thought was just. He had nothing to cling to, and even though it sucks that our GOAT had to die, it generally makes sense that he'd lay down his life here. A man who had nothing to live for compared to a woman who simply had too much to live for. V3 focuses on a lot of contrast, opposites, juxtapositions, and even though these things basically mean the same thing, whatever. Truth versus lies, too much to live for versus nothing to live for, faith versus mistrust, etc. It makes you stop to think and wonder, what other character would have anywhere near a similar impact to us than Ryoma dying in this scenario? He drives home the themes way more effectively than any other character would. He's a scary reminder of what Shuichi could have been had he not received the help that Kaede gave him. Rather, a reflection of what may have happened to Shuichi given the contrary. A scenario where Kirumi convinced him that his life wasn't worth the same amount of value as hers and was painfully driven to suicide by Kokichi's actions. Yet another example of this cast just being fucking ruthless. While we're on that topic though, let's talk about Kirumi. Now, more than anything, Kirumi's not a bad character, but I'd definitely be lying if I said she was one-dimensional as fuck. In a literal example of her personality and her physical appearance being one dimension, her personality could be summed up as mother-like to the extreme. Ironically, something she expresses to least appreciate in the world. But of course, as she's a murderer, you gotta add some extra character depth in there right before she dies. Much like Sayaka's pop group or Teruteru's sick mother, Kirumi also has an important person waiting for her at home. Except following the trends of V3, of course, we're taking it to the extreme. A brother? Nah. Oh, maybe a mom or a dad? Nah. How about the entire country of Japan? My god, when I tell you, her motive left my jaw slacked. The Prime Minister? It's insane. unrealistic, some would say. To that, I have some words for you. Yeah, you're right. This is so stupid. But here's the thing. It's intentional. I need you to remember something. This is Danganronpa V3. You know, 5-3, 53. Do you know how many talents you'd have to come up with? Think about it. 16 students in each game. There are 53 games. Let's do the math. Yeah, that's 848 fucking talents. That's insane. Don't you think by this point they'd be running out of ideas? Well, yeah, they are. That's, in my opinion, the idea. And even if you want to be generous about it, that's still 848 possible different motives that you'd have to come up with. Or if you want to be even more specific, 53 different motives. But even then, how many motives can you really come up with before you start reaching? How many times are you going to do the sick parents waiting at home, or the parents that miss their son or daughter so much and want them to come home shtick, until it's not even believable anymore, or doesn't have the viewer sitting there with any ounce of empathy? Those kind of things get old. Danganronpa as an in-series has gotten so big and ambitious that they're starting to lose the plot, and will continue to, as Tsumugi herself expresses the insatiable need to continue Danganronpa forever. Kirumi's motive is a testament to this notion, and even some of the talents themselves are too. I mean, Kaede's talent is rendered almost completely redundant by Ibuki's talent as the ultimate musician. Shit like this is all over the game if you look hard enough. What the fuck is a Neo Aikido? Are we in Copper right now? That aside though, Kirumi's character, even having to dance around these themes and opposites, is excellent. Her seemingly calm demeanor completely breaking apart in her raw, unbridled determination to survive, just to save her people, is beautiful. It's amazing seeing her fight so damn hard for human life. It's honestly a one-of-a-kind experience, something that you'd never see Ryoma do, you know, by the way. All in all, skipping over the frankly disappointing mystery, Danganronpa's second chapter is far too underrated. There's so much done here that just completely goes unnoticed, and even worse, overshadowed. The expectations for this chapter doomed it to fail, since chapter 1 left absolutely insane shoes for chapter 2 to fill. Honestly though, I think it did a great job. Danganronpa V3 is a game all about this kind of writing, and I doubt you'd see something as deep as this in Danganronpa 1. And even though there is character development, unlike a certain second game, all the characters are more or less falling down to cliches, and that's really, really nice to not see here. So as we continue on, we'll see more of these themes, these opposites, and these contrasts, and hopefully people will find a better appreciation for Danganronpa V3, and of course, the chapters that come with them. So with that out of the way, I think it's time we move on to Chapter 3, one of the most infamous chapters in Danganronpa history, and why I argue it doesn't really deserve that title at all. Hello? Yeah, that's me, Trey Jamison, the best Danganronpa YouTuber of all time. Yeah, okay. Oh, you wanna put an advertisement on my video? I guess, sure. I've never had one of those before, so I'm gonna make a dumb decision. Go for it. Atua? You want me to, you know, I don't even, it doesn't matter. I don't need to know what that is. Sure, anything for, some quick pocket cash as a broke college student. Go for it. Oh, you want me to put it in, like, right now? I mean, shit, what? Go for it, man. Whatever makes me money. Hey, everyone. Before we get to our daily scheduled broadcast, today's video is sponsored by Atua. Are you lonely? Are you depressed? Are you
Desperately looking for a reason to live? Are you looking for friends? Are you looking for anything? Well, I'm glad you asked. Introducing Atua. Atua can help you if you have no friends. Atua can help you be happy.
Sorry, I don't know what came over me. Welcome back to the show where I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want. And Chapter 3. Oh, man. What was I about to get myself into this time? Third case syndrome is real. And looking how things are progressing, this chapter could be amazing, or it could be Danganronpa-esque. disappointing. Luckily for us, Danganronpa V3 has had a, thankfully, harmonious history of having strong characterization and individual writing. So my expectations were pretty high going into it. And as you'd hopefully expect by this point, I was fulfilled. Playing Chapter 3 is like eating a cake layered in shit. You know, for the outside and surface level, it's completely awful and looks absolutely lethal to consume. But once you get past that disgusting layer of actual dick and balls, you get to the amazing center. The deeper you go, the more you appreciate it. That's what she said. But now, imagine if one very specific section, no matter how deep you get, just keeps tasting like the same old shit. Moving on. From beginning to end, the characterization and writing of each character, fuck off, met my expectations and surpassed them in some areas. Normally with third chapters, you'd expect the trial to be the weakest part of the chapter, given its horrible reputation for having some of the worst trials each game has to offer. And although I personally find this one to be the best in the trilogy, it's definitely not the best trial in this game in particular. To be honest though, it's actually the daily life that falls flat for me. Not only does it feel pretty short, but it's also pretty bare bones and... I mean, you obviously have the spread of Angie's religion, which I'll get to in a bit, but for the most part, nothing really happens. I genuinely don't care for the Monokubs and Monokuma's weird strike or whatever, and honestly, I haven't given a single shit about the Monokubs ever since Monosuke died, man. He was the best one. And Angie just spends all her time locked up in her fucking talent room all day. Before we get to the actual chapter review, here's a very quick list of things I thoroughly enjoyed about this chapter that I couldn't express in this video due to interest of time. Kokichi likely hates Maki a lot more than other characters. This chapter mainly focuses on Angie, Himiko, and Tenko, but the growth and writing come with the trials more than anything. That aside though, there are definitely things I appreciate about it. I mean, the idea of the student council honestly wasn't a bad idea. Angie's plan to make the academy a paradise so no one would ever want to leave is honestly a good idea and would probably work. Not only would that solve a lot of the problems going on inside the academy, but it would also just straight up end the fucking killing game. Even better, it would end it in a way that would satisfy absolutely everyone, given the twist at the end. The student council consists of... Wait, didn't I already do this last video? Gonta, Kibo, Tsumugi, Himiko, and Tenko? Wait, whoa, why is Tenko here, bro? Didn't she absolutely despise Angie? This makes absolutely no sense. But here's the thing. It does. Before I even get started on this mini rant, I'll just say that I may be biased. I fucking love Tenko. But moving on, Tenko as a character is pretty complicated, in the sense that I feel like a lot of her disgustingly overlooked character is just misrepresented. I mean, if you look at her character from the outside, what is there to even like about her? She's misogynistic, unhealthily obsessed with Himiko, toxic, weird, annoying, ugly. Yeah, that was me about 3 months ago-ish. I did some extra research, and honestly, now she's one of my favorites. Here's the thing. Tenko is the equivalent of an overgrown man-child with an insurmountable amount of energy. She's like chronically silly, dramatic, naive, and annoying. These parts of her character are the things that I think are genuinely intentional between her and the localization. I mean, fuck, the localization team seriously failed her here. What were you thinking when you translated this? Shout out to the person on Reddit for a lot of the information I got for this segment. You're probably thinking, what segment are you talking about? Well... I think Tenko is disgustingly overhated. And I mean, for example, in the original Japanese game, Tenko speaks in a very polite version of Japanese. She even goes as far as to refer to everyone with an honorific, including boys, further demonstrating her respectfulness. That's already better than how the average person addresses their friends. Imagine calling your friends bro, gang, twin, slam, or whatever, and Tenko's all like, hello sir, how's your day going? Hello, hello. Like, what? Who are you? But that aside, the thing people typically dog on her for the most is her use of the phrase, degenerate male. I won't lie, at first it bothered me a lot too, especially since I'm not particularly a fan of Mahiru by any means. The thing is, the translation is not only a gross oversimplification of what she actually says, but it also misrepresents her already quote-unquote subject to hate character and leads to a lot of unnecessary hate. There's a reason why Tenko is actually pretty damn popular in Japan. But it makes sense because Japan has a serious pedophilia problem. Here's a bit of a lesson on Japanese, and in this case, also Chinese, because they're pretty similar. In the original game, she uses the phrase nanzi, which, although literally translates to male death, is supposed to be a play on words for the phrase nanzi, which just straight up means boy. According to this Redditor and my own research, this is supposed to be nothing more than a fucking playground insult, which is supposed to further reiterate Tenko's tendency to be very childish and naive. She is genuinely at the mental age of no fucking older than 12. The whole reason she hates men in the first place is because her Aikido master told her that boys are gross and dumb, so he could avoid having to deal with annoying boyfriends and stupid shit like that. Meanwhile, Tenko took this as law and completely forgot her master was literally a man. Regarding her relationship with Himiko though, which is a big aspect of her character that leads to the hate she gets, a large majority of her original infatuation comes from Himiko being a magician, particularly because she reminds Tenko of an idol, the kind of entertainment Tenko enjoys most, which checks out considering her childish nature. This is funny considering that means Tenko would canonically be a huge K-pop stan. Which also checks out considering she's definitely the type to be on Twitter yelling at men. Tenko is also the only person to genuinely believe in Himiko's magic, which is another phrase that gets disgustingly overused in this game, and is honestly something you come to expect after hearing about how much of a fucking child she is. Himiko's response is also misinterpreted a lot too, as people think her dismissive or outright disinterested response to Tenko came from a place of malice or hatred, when on the contrary, that is just not the case at all. I can elaborate a lot more during the trial segment of this video, but all in all, Tenko is one of my favorite characters in the entire game, and although not everyone will like her, she definitely was failed by the localization team and some misinterpretation by players. You can interpret these kind of games however you like, but it's important to add every piece of the puzzle before you make a final stance, so you know exactly what you're talking about. Moving on from that probably not gonna be funny aspect of the script, Angie's student council practically takes control over the entire school as if it's some sort of dictatorship. And you're probably gonna tell me right now, oh Trey, it can't be a dictatorship because there's multiple people. Shut the fuck up! Honestly, with how strong Angie's influence was, they were practically a hive mind acting as one wit under Angie. And God, don't even get me started on Angie. She's an entirely different monster than Tenko, which honestly explains why they didn't get along much. The push and pull between Tenko and Angie's influence is so fucking draining that I genuinely don't blame Himiko for being depressed all the time. Angie is already hard to be around alone without losing her goddamn mind. Imagine in her free time events, she tries to sell you organs to the black market. But Tenko is just so fucking annoying sometimes. Ask an introvert whether they'd rather be in a room with one or the other and they'd probably pick death. I feel like honestly the daily life and deadly life spends a large majority of its time focusing on Maki and Shuichi. I can understand that it's something that needs focus, but I feel like it took a lot of potential screen time that Korekiyo and Tenko could have gotten to flesh out their characters. I mean, let's be honest, Angie and Himiko have gotten so much goddamn screen time, I could never see why you would need more. But when it comes to Kyo, God! I loved Kyo. I loved his personality, I loved his talent, I love the fact that you know he's gonna kill someone at some point is honestly an interesting approach to his character. He's self-aware about it too. This guy's a fucking suspicious as hell loser, and he knows he has to clear his name every single time he gets the chance. And he has a nice design too. Despite bro being a literal fucking murderer, this guy wasn't fleshed out much at all beyond his joke of a backstory at the end of the trial. Like bro, this... Actually, I don't need to go over this. It's been picked to death by hundreds of other people, and I should not have to tell you why incest is bad. Unless you're Japanese. But okay, I get it. One tiny thing you can take away from this is that I appreciate the tendency for these V3 murders to have so much more grit to them. These guys don't have sad backstories that make us feel bad for why they did what they did. We don't get a sob story. These are actually just cruel people, and I like that. Like Kirumi having the ability to gaslight that might even surpass Miro from Alice in Borderland. That aside though, Kyo is obviously a character with a lot of potential, but it's hard not to say that about every character. I just think he could have been a lot higher heights than the other characters, considering he isn't tied down to an arc or character growth. He's a great aura to him, and even though the dictionary has a separate definition for creepy specifically for him, oh wait, shit, that's for another day. There we go. He can be weirdly interesting at times, and his talent is really nice. Useless, yes, but interesting. Sadly, there isn't much he is other than interesting. His entire character boils down to, hey guys, I know I look like a creepy serial killer, because I am, but I'm super self-aware about it, and I'd like to plead myself innocent to get along with everyone until I'm very obviously the culprit, and I'd love to get along with all of you until I get the chance to murder all of the women here. I just feel like so much more could be done here that just wasn't. But to be fair, there's only so much you can do in one chapter. What we were given is fine though. A character can still be excellent even if they have no growth. Some characters are fine just the way they are. Plus, V3 likes to play favorites. You can tell from the get-go. It's pretty obvious who's gonna live or die, given Danganronpa's extremely repetitive pacing formula, as well as who's contributing the most. That aside though, I liked his character. I just wish he was a lot more rounded. Back to the chapter though, it relies on a bunch of what ifs, where things are about to happen and then all of a sudden just don't. The biggest example of this being the Necronomicon. I mean, like, I could kind of see where they may have been going with it. Throwing a shot in the dark, I'd say the whole escapism viewing religion is temporary theme they got going on. It could make sense that the entire thing would implode on itself right at the worst moment, that being the moment that we could have revived one of the other students, as if to punish Angie for basically playing God. It was always a very temporary solution to a massive problem, given the fact that you're taking away the freedom of the people, the number one thing history tells you not to do. Do you think Angie's Island had history classes? Wait, do you even think they have history to begin with? Where did Angie even live? North Sentinel Island? She talks about buying human organs off the dark web and shit like that. What kind of hell, or heaven by her standards, were they living in? Moving on though, it's frustrating as a player to have the idea of someone being brought back to life dangle in front of your face like a fucking Twinkie, only to have it taken away. I get that, but let's be real. How badly would Danganronpa's pacing had been taken off track if someone was brought back? I mean, in chapter 3, 2 people are supposed to die. 3, including the murder. If you add 1 person, then there's a net loss of 2 lives, including the murder, obviously, which would increase the living students by 1, which would complicate things. It would make the game a lot harder to write around, given their obvious history to keep things somewhat the same, presumably for the sake of convenience and time constraint. It sucks, and even though it 100% would have been a cool motive, it would fuck the flow up of the game writing, and would likely be just straight up adding another chapter to the game. On top of that, I feel like the point of Danganronpa would just lose its value as a death game. Having someone come back to life just to lose takes away the entire purpose of someone dying, being dead forever. It would water down a lot of themes and honestly weaken the game overall. Like many other topics, this has been complained about for so long that I doubt I could say anything that's considered original, so it's whatever. And I likely can't change anyone's mind off that, but that's just how I see it. The way they tried to write it out is just so stupid though. Just having the characters outright deny its legitimacy feels a bit forced, and that's probably why so many people complained about it in the first place, but it's honestly not that big of a deal. What is a big deal though is, you know, the big black elephant in the room. The ink. Why is there ink splattered everywhere like this? Did Angie start like tweaking out, throwing paint on the walls or something? I feel like Angie's just like all the time, like, bro.
Can we talk about like the political and economic state of the world right now?
Okay, but obviously I'm talking about Angie's death and Tenko's. It's super sad, but I'm sure most of you saw it coming. As I stated before, these characters are pretty nuanced and involved in this chapter, so the death flags were very much there. Not that it's a bad thing though. They serve the narrative purpose, so it's time for them to go. It's a bit sad that V3 works like that, since death games are a bit more fun when you can't anticipate the death, but it's handled well enough for me, so whatever. The investigation in this chapter is, without a doubt, the best one for me, because I forgot what the other ones are after this. Maki already knocks it out of the park when it comes to being herself. She literally has zero tolerance for any of Mew's bullshit, and she's refreshingly clear with things getting done. Normally, I hate the investigations. They're pretty boring, and since I already know what happens, feels like a waste of time. But Maki actually makes it fun. Tenko dying during Angie's investigation was also really nice, but there's not much to comment on that beyond, you know, she died. I'll get to her final words later, though.
Please!
Moving on, it's finally time to get to the... Now, The trial is basically following this structure. Try to discover Angie's murder, fail to, switch to Tenko's murder, then use the information found there to wrap up Angie's murder. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. I did some research on a couple common complaints about this chapter, which I'll get to soon, and honestly, watching their tier list and rankings, I really just saw the same points and arguments. Here they are now. But before we get there, I want to talk about why I think this trial is actually pretty solid. I think it's vastly underrated. The comedy here is much more balanced out, getting to hear funny gags from most of the characters rather than Kokichi and Miu carrying the trial. Plus, I feel like everyone had something to bring to the table except Tsumugi, but that's like her thing. Angie and Tego's murder was really fun to solve, probably because they were my favorite characters before they got slimed by the president of Incest Land, but even them as victims, they serve their unfortunate purpose excellently. I mean, there are plenty of parallels you can make between them, like for example, living in reality versus Now, I'm sure there's plenty of other parallels that you can find if you really look deep enough, but when it comes down to it, I feel like the game's pretty clear-cut with its parallels. Because the point isn't to find a deep, nuanced, complicated storyline between Tenko and Angie. The arc is really just about Himiko, and Tenko and Angie are pawns to that arc. Moving on though, the locked room mystery was especially engaging because normally it's been established for stuff like that is for the most part impossible. It was really nice figuring out how it was done. Tenko's murder, although I'm not gonna lie was a little less fun, was still exciting, especially because it implies that she may have killed herself. You can really see Himiko trying her absolute hardest to defend her friend. Their bond was so much more than we saw on screen, but even more tragically, more than Tenko will ever see, and had ever seen. This trial is where you get to see Himiko do everything she can to defend her friends. The moment she breaks down completely, giving up on everything, that's real, man. That's a real moment. To me, that has to be one of the best moments in V3 entirely. Sometimes life gets so hard you just want to give up and do nothing. It's about your ability to get up over and over again and fight for life that brings the desire to live. Himiko learns that through the determination of Kaito, but more importantly, Tenko's final words.
Please! By the way... Damn it! Yes!
Telling her to live on with everyone else and try her best to learn to express her emotions. You could tell Himiko really cared about Tenko, but couldn't ever express it. Here in this trial, she finally does. Now, here's the thing. Himiko's growth as a character is great. It's realistic and hits very close to home for most people, literally ever. But here's the thing. Himiko was never a likable character before this, bro. Like, I don't know how you expect anyone to give a single fuck about her, 1, when she's ugly as shit, then 2, when she genuinely had, like, 0 likable qualities about her that made me want to root for her growth. Ryoma was different because he was likable. There were lots of people in the comments on the last video who said he was their favorite character and wish he lived longer. Absolutely nobody would say that about Himiko. Or maybe a couple people. You know, shout out to you, like, 1 or 2 Himiko fans out there before she got her growth. But, like, why should I give a single fuck? Well, when it comes to stuff like this, it's not about how likable the character is, but rather their substance. You can hate Himiko and think she should have died, but you can't deny what she went through. The writers clearly don't have an easy time writing characters with the intention of being liked or hated, considering the fact that Miu was supposed to be universally hated, only for her to return out to be one of the most popular characters in her game, let alone the entire franchise. I don't want what I'm saying here to make it seem like I'm painting this chapter or Himiko's growth in a bad light. But no matter how well you write an arc, especially because this is my favorite arc in the game, being, in my opinion, the second best written one, you cannot possibly expect to gain the audience's favor if the character you focus on literally has zero likable qualities and isn't even entertaining to hate on. That being said though, here are some common criticisms I saw when researching this video. Let's go through them one at a time, speedrun style, because this video is already getting really long. 1. Angie gets no respect because they spent so long on Tenko's murder. Here's my response. They didn't know how to solve Angie's murder, and out of respect for Himiko's feelings, which she explicitly mentioned in the trial, they decided to delve into Tenko's murder to see if, 1, it may have clues on how Angie died, and 2, to give respect to Tenko. Number 2. It's set up like there's 2 killers, and there's only 1, and there's missed potential to do something actually interesting with having the characters have to live, with a murderer. Now, I feel like this take is just like universally accepted. I don't know a single person who doesn't have this opinion. So, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I actually agree. It would have been much nicer had they kept Kyo alive here for reasons I'll get into in a second. Number 3. Lack of emotional attachment due to both victims being commonly disliked. That's more of a personal thing, which is fine, but a lot of people dislike these two for poor mistranslation, so it's a bit unfair. That being said, it's just fine to dislike these two, and it makes sense that they can be a bit annoying. Other than Kokichi, I'd say these two are the most annoying pieces of shit in the cast, but I love them. The culprit was too obvious. Yep, I think the point may have been to evoke a feeling of, quote, Kyo is definitely the one who killed Tenko, but Angie's who we have to worry about, kind of feeling. I'm not entirely sure. You have to prove Kyo killed Tenko in order to give Tenko the respect she deserves, and use what we learned to find the truth behind Angie's murder. It's too bad he killed both, because that was fucking stupid. Using the feeling of, oh, he definitely killed someone, we could have capitalized on that by making it even more obvious that he killed Tenko, and then have it be whether or not he killed Angie as the main part of the trial. They spend a lot of time on Tenko's murder, but I just don't see the point. You make Kyo this character that's so obviously gonna kill someone, and so obviously the culprit to Tenko's murder, that wouldn't it be a lot easier and nicer if you had just made a different culprit for Angie, so that way you could capitalize off the fact that it's obvious he killed Tenko and still have him live? But I don't know. And finally, the culprit should have only killed Angie. Yeah, I see this a lot. This one was, for the most part, addressed in the game. Kyo is selfish and a literal freaking serial killer. For someone who's killed 97 people before the events of Chapter 3, or the events of Danganronpa entirely, did you seriously expect for him to be able to resist the urge to murder, especially after he went through his seance plan? He felt it'd be a waste not to use it, and he couldn't resist the urge because he was very clearly obsessed with his sister, and he said this part himself, it'd be so sad to let it go to waste. I'm sure he was feeling confident, as at this point he's basically a professional murderer, and I don't see why anyone would commit a murder they weren't confident they'd get away with, even despite Shuichi's detective skills. All in all though, this trial, like any other trial, has its ups and downs. I think it's far overhated, and an insane majority of tier lists I watch ranked at bottom 3 consistently, along with Danganronpa 2's 3rd chapter. It's sad really, especially because this arc takes a lot of the game's runtime, starting as early as Chapter 2, going into the beginning of Chapter 4. If this video does anything, I hope, at the very least, it clears my girl Tenko from Fraud Watch. Actually, okay, listen. None of that actually matters, because, wait. Can you guys hear me? It's getting laggy on my end. I can't really hear anything. Hello? Feels good to be back. Welcome back to the show where I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want. And by God, Danganronpa V3's 4th chapter is such a banger. And I bet almost everyone can agree with me on this. Dude, this chapter takes the emotional heights of the 3rd chapter, takes a good, deep look at it, and laughed in his fucking face, because if you thought that chapter was emotional, which if you saw the last video, you know this bitch didn't, you're in one for a hell of a ride today. A ride of sadness and despair. Of course, once you get to the second half of Danganronpa, things tend to get a much more serious turnaround, and that's absolutely no exception here. This chapter, more than almost any other one, explores the themes of truth versus lies and questioning the value of life. Not only is the daily life section interesting and engaging, but the murder is conceptually unique, and the trial is beyond exhilarating. For the very first scene of the chapter, the setup immediately begins. But dude, last video was so fucking long and really painful to make. I think this video, I'm gonna start cutting out parts I feel that aren't as important. As the chapter begins, we see Rentaro's little video, and I was especially... Okay. Listen, it's not gay to appreciate a man's beauty. But this guy looks way too good to have died in the first chapter. So Rentaro goes on a yap about several things, most of which is completely blocked out. But what you essentially need to know is that this guy, 3 chapters later, is still suspicious as fuck. Like, why, bro? Okay, the cutting is getting a little intense. But before we start talking about the full chapter, I've come to notice, oh great heavens! Guys, please subscribe if you haven't already, guys. We're so close to... Even beyond just that, things are all over the place in the land of the living with the characters by this point. Miu is tweaking out of her mind, Kokichi's antics are in full swing, and Kaito is officially considered terminal. And Gota's feeling as
valuable as a summer ant.
But what I find to be the most important is Himiko's new attitude towards life. Not much to say about it other than I really like it. Gotta give Tenko and Angie's death meaning somehow. I really did have a change of heart about Himiko this chapter though. I'll talk about it soon. I really appreciate what she's doing here, and what she continues to do in the future, which primarily is being funny as hell. Like, for some reason, she gets really into the Monokubs, this whole, like, incest family thing, I don't... Which, by the way, on that topic, when I was replaying this game, the worst thing happened. Listen, there are 3 instances of incest in Danganronpa V3. Korekio's motive, Samugi's fucking love hotel, and the Monokubs. While playing the game, all 3 of these things happened in a row. Right as chapter 3 ended, I got Samugi's love... Oh my god. If there's anything that could have made those awful events better, it was definitely Himiko. Because even though her love hotel thing is, like, just as weird, at least she turns the Monokubs thing into something, like, kind of funny. But anyways, the daily life is the daily life is by far my favorite. Too far? Wait, what did I... While Shuichi is exploring, we got a couple new areas, that being the detective's ultimate lab upstairs, and part of the blah blah blah. Dude, holy shit. I mean, even before the virtual world, the thing that's most worth mentioning is the nightly training with Kaito and Maki, and how it really gets into full swing. The important part of that meeting being the part Maki... Holy shit, okay, that's the wrong song. The important part of that meeting being the part Maki asks a really funny question to Shuichi. Hey, Shuichi, I know we've been in a killing game for the past several days now, and 7 students have died. But just curious about your little crush on your dead best friend. I'm not in love with Kaito. No, but seriously, Maki's backstory is excellent. No, Maki is excellent. I think Maki might genuinely be one of the best written Danganronpa characters, like, ever. Even besides her backstory, which I'll get to in a minute, the way she handles that silly-ass crush conversation was a serious breath of fresh air. I thought it was going to be one of those stupid anime cliches where they start fighting over a misunderstanding. I forgot this game is well written for a minute. We should really start trusting this game to make right decisions by this point. Yeah, well...
Ever since that day, I trained to become an assassin.
Yes, that's it.
Her backstory is actually really sad, as you'd expect, but not in an over-the-top way. You know, it's dramatic, considering she's a high schooler who's also an assassin in a killing game, who's friends with a detective and a prospect astronaut with a terminal illness, all in a fake world, fake for entertainment. But it still works. It's written with moderation, and you don't have to suspend disbelief to allow yourself to be sucked into the story. Her life makes sense, and is weirdly realistic. Mayhaps there's some commentary there. I know I've repeated this a million times, but everything just feels so natural and I fucking love it. This is why people say Shuichi's the best main character. Kaede felt like a confident, complete character before the game even started. Shuichi is so masterful as a main character because we get to see him grow this much. Seeing him talk the way he does helps me realize he's not just an everyman character, rather like his own character with a distinct personality. You know, like a real person. Next warning though, something that surprised me more than anything this game has to offer is how Himiko is actually funny. Like, what do you mean? How did I miss this the first time around? I can't believe I'm saying this. Like, genuinely. I had to put it in my notes because it was such a good moment. Like, when I realized that she actually made me laugh, my mind fucking exploded. I spent so much time last video hating, actually hating. Nothing much really happens between this point and the virtual world, so I'm skipping to there. Okay, yep, skip all that. Yep, just walking around. Ooh, this part's good. Are you kidding me?
Talk about it.
Okay, so we're skipped around. Okay. Okay, this is good now. Hello? I said stop! Stop! It's good! Stop! Stop! The victim and murderer of this case, unlike last time, don't actually have that much controversy behind their characters, and I feel like the intention was really set. Like, I mean, Miu was created to be hated and became one of the most iconic characters in Danganronpa history. Which, I mean, no matter how you feel, whether you hate or love her, she's written intentionally, and there's nothing you can really debate about it. Regardless of the intention, she's written in a way where everyone can understand what she is, and it's up to personal opinion.
So you're welcome, Dick Cheese. Think of me during your next dick.
And I mean, that's the same with Gonta, where most people like Gonta, so there's not even an argument there. But if you don't like Gonta, I completely get it, because even I'm a little bit annoyed by him sometimes. My first thought is how much the game is literally winking and nudging at you since the very first moment of the chapter. Like, dude, if you're paying enough attention, you can tell that something is up with Kokichi and Miu from the very start, other than the fact that Shuichi literally mentions it, by how far the most predictable murder in the entire franchise. But obviously, that's not the point, so it doesn't even matter. Like, seriously, there's no way you couldn't guess that the ultimate inventor, you know, the one that's good with computers, would take everyone to a virtual world where she has complete control over anything and not try to do a murder scheme. I mean, of course, it's intentional, but I think it's done really, really well. Turns out the game's been winking at you for a while now. That aside though, the Monokums forcefully pull your attention towards them to yap about some, like, motive or something. I don't really know. It's something like the outside world, I think. And Monokuma, of course, knows something about it. I think. But, like, listen, that's not the important part here. The important part is the fact that Monotaro deadass calls Miu mommy, and she likes it? What is happening? What? Bro, this game was seriously ahead of its time. Miu is the type of character that would definitely be into that shit in real life. And as far as I know, that mommy shit wasn't a thing back in 2017. Maybe it was, but as far as I know, it wasn't. And that's insane. I fucking died when I saw this for the first time. And the second time, and the third time, it's unconditionally funny to me, bro. I physically cannot resist the urge to laugh, and I don't know why. On a slightly more serious note, though, as these chapters go on, there's a theme I haven't mentioned, but has been ever more important with each subsequent death. Never carry a burden by yourself. We see time and time again as the burden of fear, anger, weakness, and vulnerability is carried by one person alone, which is what causes them to commit murder in the first place. Kaede took the burden of killing the mastermind upon herself, despite being offered help. Even more so, both Hirumi and Ryoma took the burden of life on their own, and so on. In a killing game, the worst thing you can do is allow yourself to be alone, both literally, because you can't get caught lacking, but also mentally. To carry something as heavy as these characters is to allow yourself to suffer more than you could ever need to. You're trapped with people who, on some level, care about you. Maybe not everyone, but someone. You see this theme become more and more relevant as people begin to rely far too much on Shuichi's detective work to solve their problems. And Shuichi takes this burden, where it comes into full swing by the final chapter. It gets worse and worse each time, to a point where the characters lose the ability to do anything for themselves. Once we get into the virtual world, however, one thing I happen to notice is how much Kokichi turned up his antics to this point. I mean, of course, given how much more he knew than everyone else, it only makes sense for him to do whatever the fuck he wanted, considering everyone was at least 3 steps behind him the entire time. I mean, even the moment they entered where he predicted Gonta joining him when he abandoned the group. Knowledge is power, and he used it hard. We'll get back to that later, though. To be honest, the virtual world is a whole lot of... Nothing really happens, and it's not very significant since we literally don't get anything done. For the most part, it's just a bunch of fetch quests where instead of trying to find the secret to the whatever, they're trying to find a reason not to close the game and do something less boring! Until, you know. Oh god. Oh god. Mew! No, Mew! Mew's death was entirely predictable, but of course, that's not the point. Her discovery was much more fun than that of others, naturally since there's flopping between the virtual world and the real world. Plus, Kokichi's here. Kokichi joins us for a large majority of the investigation, where he obviously is a much bigger help than Kaito could ever be. He's also funnier and more entertaining in my opinion, more so than even Maki. The way he just messes with everyone and provokes literally everyone Shuichi talks to makes it feel like there's something he's not letting on. And of course, that's exactly the case. That, of course, will be uncovered in the... Now, before we get to the... I'm gonna go back to what I said before and actually delve a little bit into Mew's character now that she's dead. Now, because Mew is more or less a joke character, there's actually not a lot about her backstory, and in the trial, we really don't get to talk about Mew at all. Unlike in the other trials, where the victim gets a lot of their personality explored, Mew gets almost none of that. And as a matter of fact, beyond her own murder plan, which we'll get to in a minute, she actually isn't talked about at all. And there's not really much to explore anyway. She has little to no backstory. Her love hotel is just as weird as the rest of them.
You don't want that future with me? You won't let me be your girlfriend, Shuichi? 'Cause you don't need me? Is that it? No! I don't want you to abandon me too. So we gotta make a baby.
She doesn't go through an arc, and nobody even really likes her, so no one's sad when she dies either. It's actually pretty sad, but it makes sense. I mean, she's not supposed to be a character with much depth. Now, of course, despite how much I've been hyping up this trial, at first, it literally just is a normal trial. A lot of the gags and comedic value from the trial come from Himiko, funny enough, who has proven to me upon the 1, 2, 5, 6, 3, 5th playthrough of the game, eventually Himiko is a character worth liking. The primary mystery at first is trying to figure out what the fuck Mew was planning. Beyond her murder, she had her own murder planned on Kokichi. But it's pretty easy to tell really early on. I mean, was Mew ever really a smart character? Like, sure, she was an inventor, but when it came to actual critical thinking, she was not the brightest. Hints were sprinkled all over the place that she was clearly up to no good. Essentially, her plan sat on the fact that she had absolute control over the virtual world, so it'd be impossible to guess she could be the murderer. And yeah, if you ignore every neon flashing sign, then maybe. It was a great plan, I guess. Sadly, the remaining students have a combined intelligence greater than a fucking wood plank, so of course they would figure it out. Beside her though, this trial is way more serious than at first glance. After you get Mew's very shitty mystery out of the way, things really get down. I mean, the murder itself is pretty easy to solve because, obviously, using process of elimination, it can't be anyone but Gonta. The idea that this lovable idiot could kill anyone is so painfully foreign. I mean, the truth is revealed about halfway through the trial, yet nobody dies for another hour and 50 minutes. Like, Jesus, was it that hard to believe? Which, by the way, yes it is. This is a result of blind trust. In the setting of the class trial, emotions and logic go half and half. We've seen this, as time and time again, logic has been shot down by emotions, and vice versa. In every chapter so far, we learned about this balance. Whether it be not to rely on emotions and convict Kaede for what she did, no matter how we felt, or trusting Himiko with her magic show despite her being a clear suspect. We even chose to believe in Tenko to not have killed herself in chapter 3. Time and time again, we've seen as this balance shows its effect. But now, with the absence of both Kyo, Angie, and many other logical thinkers in the trials have been unfairly balanced in favor of emotions. Characters like Kaito, Samugi, Himiko, and Gonta fight so hard to believe rather than to find the truth, and that adamancy is what hurts them the most. The stubbornness to not adapt or find balance hurts you. In this case, most of all, Kaito, who fights endlessly to believe even in a place such as this where it's not necessary. And because of this, the way he gets shot down is the definition of a slow burn. The feeling that Kokichi of all people is going to be able to live so much longer than Gonta ever could just makes the viewer question what the true value of life is. And I mean, it's interesting because in past games, Chapter 4 touches on the value of life in so many other ways. Whether it be Sakura sacrificing herself for everyone else, giving them an opportunity to discover the mystery behind the school, or Gundam dueling Nekomaru to save the others from the Strawberry and Grape House. I mean, one of Gundam's final words was literally to value life. Gonta's motive for killing in and of itself is a question of how much value life has anyway. He questions whether it's worth it to just die where they stand instead of pushing through the struggles that lie outside in the real world. And then there's also Monokuma just kind of killing his cubs for fun, I guess. Life in the virtual world. The life of someone nobody even really liked. The life of someone so sweet and arguably innocent that they could never be seen as someone who could murder. The voice acting between Gonta and Kokichi is seriously fantastic. I'm sure everyone knows this by now. The desperate cries from Gonta as Kokichi continues to yell at him is nothing short of heartbreaking. The scenario in which Gonta doesn't remember his crime creates something in which everyone is wrong. Although Gonta isn't lying, he technically did commit the murder. You can see signs of Kokichi actually getting really mad, which is funny because that little shit had it coming.
The thing you guys wanted so badly, a truth without any lies. New Iruma's killer is Gonta Gokuhara!
Really? Did Gonta really do it? Why? Gonta kill Mew. Forget everything. Gonta even think he not do anything bad. And then Gonta tried to blame someone else and make everyone suffer. Why? Why Gonta do such terrible thing?
Lies. How many lies do you think exist in the world? We've got bold-faced lies, exaggerated lies, fabricated lies, white lies, black lies? Is that a thing? And then people lie for different reasons too, whether it be to gain power, to cover up a painful truth, or just because you're a complete piece of shit like Kokichi. Welcome back to the show where I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want. And I can finally release this video to y'all. I've been so excited to release this. Other than when I released this, and did all those things before I started working on it. But anyways, this video is probably going to be a real doozy. Who knows? I'm not gonna lie, I might have some hot takes this chapter, so we'll see. Starting off like usual, we gather in the dining hall together with just a little bit more trauma than usual. Having our favorite gorilla die is bound to kill some spirits. Oh my bad. Listen, when I say that Gonta's execution was genuinely one of my favorites ever, I mean it. V3 in general has the best executions in the entire series, but what ruins this one for me is the fucking oh my god. Why? Was this necessary? I genuinely don't understand why developers, usually based in Japan, have this problem with putting incest in their creations. Sure, I can see how it's funny, but it's just so weird and off-putting. I physically cannot handle it. Goto's execution went from a solid 9.5 out of 10 to maybe like an 8 out of 10. That being said, it's absolutely fire. Pun intended. Anyways, at the very start of the chapter, Monokuma directly references the value of life as a central theme to the game by talking about the death of his Monokubs and how he really doesn't care about them. Super interesting stuff, considering the fact that last chapter, Kokichi touches on this when discussing how he values his own life over the ones he sacrificed last chapter. I mean, honestly, this chapter is so lore heavy that it's almost overwhelming in a sense, and it makes me realize that I really wish that some of these other chapters had more lore rather than just dumping it all in the 5th and 6th chapters. But hey, it's not that big of a deal. Let's just get into the things, man. Everyone gathers in the dining hall, and before I even get to what they're talking about, I seriously feel the need to mention the fact that the words hope and despair start to really ramp up in these chapters at like an unnatural rate. It really shows the fact that like this whole game, the story is so artificial. Like, is this foreshadowing? I genuinely like the fact that it comes out of nowhere. Like, I feel like in any other scenario where this happens, it would be a massive warning sign about the quality of the game. But because of the ending, anything unnatural kind of like makes sense. But anyways, they meet up in the dining room like usual. Morning, Gonta. Except not really, because Kaito's too busy being a sissy bitch about Shuichi and Kokichi. And I might get into this a little later, but I'm be honest, I'm so biased against Kaito. With chapter 4, and like in a lot of my other videos you've seen, I actually just hate this kid. There are nice things to say about him, but to me, the bad outweighs the good so much. I just can't, bro. That aside though, back to the morning chat. It's sad Mew really had no friends. She didn't even get mentioned. Okay, in hindsight, I'm saying that Gota really didn't get mentioned either. Whatever, man. Everyone's too busy dealing with Kaito's chronic illness, aka fucking excuse, then deal with my boy Shuichi getting fucking egoed by this annoying ass baby. Like, are you kidding me, dude? Bro, I don't understand. Kaito is so immature, bro. But yeah, the bulk of the conversation really revolves around about like Kaito's illness and how he has to repeatedly remind everyone that he's fine and 100% healthy. Like, man, if you were a killer, you'd be a great fucking liar. Like, damn. So anyway, he's obviously lying, but we move on to talking about Kokichi so we can give the player a second death flag in the last 10 minutes. On a real note though, everyone worrying about Kaito shows how much people really do love him. He's become such a beloved part of the group, and it really shows that his efforts to help others have truly shown its effects. As much as I find him annoying here, I really enjoy seeing that. He's been such a good dude all this time, and it's good to see people give him as much love as he deserves. Kaito aside though, Hibiko continues to be the funniest character in the game left so far. I mean, I've already covered plenty in both my tier list video, the chapter 3 video, and my Danganronpa disappointments, but she genuinely has been making my gameplay so far. She is so fun to have around, and she always finds a way to make me laugh. I really like her, which is something I never thought I would say, to be honest. But with that out of the way, we head out to explore the new areas. Finally! I had to replay the chapter because the notes I wrote on it were like 2 months ago. One feature in this game I really feel was underappreciated by me, specifically by the way, is the teleport mechanic. It's actually insane how good that shit is. It's like too convenient, and I know it's probably me who didn't use it and only me, but like, I don't know, this is like a game changer, Jesus. But anyway, while we're talking about the next place we need to teleport to, why don't we just teleport there? Oh my god, why are these so long? So anyways, we make it back to Kaito's ultimate lab, and we get to see one of the bigger disappointments in the entire game, which is saying a lot. But Kaito's lab is so terrible. I was expecting something very aesthetically pleasing, but this is lame as hell. I'm not even gonna bother talking about it any more than that. It's just sad, bro. Let's move on to the more important part. I'm not gonna lie, I really don't care about the stuff in Kaito's ultimate room. But to briefly explain, there's this gopher project or something, and like, Basically, my main problem is that by this point, I really feel like the main point of the story should be obvious by now. Maki even points out the main part of what would have made this confusing. Gopher Project is named after Noah's Ark, which was made out of gopher wood. Noah's Ark was like a biblical story about them building a boat to save a bunch of animals from a flood that essentially destroyed Earth, correct me if I'm wrong, in order to like cleanse the world of their sins. You have memories about meteors crashing on Earth. You had a fucking funeral, for crying out loud. Should it not be obvious by the memories you have and the document that you read that meteors crashed on Earth and you guys are part of the Gopher Project to save humanity from the disaster while you're still alive? I feel like that should be like obvious by now. Maybe it's hindsight, but like I feel like the ultimate detective should have gotten to this point by now. I don't know. That aside though, we move on to bigger and oh my god, Kibo, back away from the oh my god. No, Kibo, we won't kill you with an electro hammer. Oh wait, that's too far ahead. If Kibo's afraid of the exostalls and they're both machines, does that mean Kibo has internalized racism? Anyway, we explore the exostall hangar and find a whole lot of nothing. But I want to use this segment to talk less about the absolute nothing we found and more about how fucking hilarious Kibo is. This guy is just like Himiko, where you really don't get to see them shine until actually, never mind. Kibo has a couple good moments before this chapter, but it's here. Oh my god, I got it. Kibo is funny, okay? Kibo has severely been underrepresented in my videos. This guy has really been the MVP of my playthrough, and I love him to death. Spending time with him this chapter is nothing short of excellent. He's very funny and has so many moments that went under the radar. Serious props to him. Kibo's side though, the locker hangar is very empty, so we move on to other more important things like, holy shit, Jesus Christ, dude. Okay, so exploring is as boring as usual, but before the day ends, we get to see Kaito being an annoying bitch one more time. Oh, he's also dying. Maki's a really good friend though. Oh my fucking god, bro. But anyways, I got the excellent pleasure of love keying Kibo. And then we get to go to the gym to get ready to murder Monokuma. That plan, by the way, all it did is just make me miss Tenko. Where'd the music go? Oh, copyright, okay. But yeah, we go to the gym to slime out this bear nigga until our favorite gremlin shows up and causes even more mayhem. How exciting!
Can we move on?
So, Kokichi's here trying to tell us what... I don't even know, dude. He's trying to tell us that using these electro hammers that Mew made was essentially her memento and could help us escape through that underground area. But before I get to what actually happens, Mew was actually very useful from start to end. It's really sad seeing her paranoia get the best of her and cause for her own death. Her development could have been legendary, but of course not everyone's gonna get the development they deserve, and she was a joke anyway. It's a nice thing to dream of though. But that aside, Kokichi commissions these hammers and stuff, but frankly, I'm having a hard time believing that. Oh, hey, it worked. It's pretty annoying to think that their entire electro hammer and electro bomb idea could have been used at literally any point in the game, and they decided to choose until there were 7 people left to do it. Like, man, what the fuck? Oh, also, this happened earlier. Yeah, and you know what? While I'm on that, I really love the dynamic between that of Maki and Kokichi, and like how they tend to interact with each other throughout what I'd consider to be the second half of the game. It's interesting to see how their ideals and habitual flaws clash with each other. Like, for example, believe it or not, Kokichi has a very strict non-murder apparandi when it comes to his quote-unquote evil organization. It said somewhere in some point of the game, I think his free time events, that he's pretty adamantly against killing. I mean, in both his free time events and the chapter 2 motive, the game goes out of its way to mention the fact that he's strongly against killing. Of course, I'm sure to most players, this runs pretty contradictory to his actions in chapter 2, 4, and obviously 5. We'll dive a little deeper into his character later in the video, but what I really think is interesting is how this trait of hating killing contrasts with Maki, who is a literal assassin. I mean, starting off as early as chapter 2, Kokichi outs Maki as an assassin in front of absolutely everyone, so she can't retaliate in any way that could result in his death. I mean, once those floodgates opened, he just kept going and going. Like, seriously, dude. He's always insulting her, outing her, making fun of her. I honestly feel bad. It's pretty obvious that Kokichi hates Maki. He wasn't like this at any other point before he decided to out her out of nowhere. I mean, he basically ignores her in chapter 1, so... That aside though, Kokichi's feelings about Maki being an assassin don't largely influence the plot in any particular way, but the way Maki retaliates is definitely worth mentioning. I mean, she begins to gradually hate Kokichi, both because of his perpetual abuse towards Kaito, but also towards her. It goes from a I don't like him to an I hate him to I want him dead. The kind of hatred that leads to her actions in the trial, trying to kill him under any circumstance. It's hard to find Kokichi and Maki interacting outside of the context of Kaito and his existence just entirely, but regardless of that, their relationship largely does revolve around Kokichi being the aggressor and provoking Maki until she retaliates. Which is funny, because it's a testament to not only their entire relationship, but also every individual conflict they ever have with each other. Kind of like, he's a bully. So anyway, we made it to the end, and oh my fucking, what is your problem? So it turns out Kokichi's the mastermind. Who's surprised? I know I'm not. No, but seriously, this alleged reveal is very well done. This alleged reveal is very well done. I think Kokichi has to seriously be one of the best characters. This kind of entertainment is genuinely off the charts. Mere moments after he explains the entire lore of the game to you, after everyone saw the outside world, he beats Kaito, who is currently dealing with super cancer, into Danganronpa's equivalent of Sleep Kuna, and proves that Momota is fucking fraudulent. And then he runs away like a little bitch because Maki seriously has him locked on sight. So of course, because of how depressed everyone is now that Kaito is missing, and plus the fact that the outside world is a shit show, Shuichi gives his Shuichi gives his best impression of the sleep schedule I had before I got a job, employment, interview, paycheck, check, work, labor. So anyways, yeah, everyone's cooked. It all comes down to the mastermind having to plant another flashback light just to keep everyone from actually killing themselves, which would of course be really boring. Can't have that! So after another quick lore drop, because what's a Danganronpa game without dropping all the lore at the very last minute, they decide to go to the hangar? Oh yeah, because to save Kaito. I kind of forgot about him. Even if the bigger reveal of the storyline after the flashback light is ultimately fake and pretty forgettable, the moment you get to see everything full together is genuinely one of the most hype moments in the entire game. Like, I've played this game a lot of times, obviously, as you'd expect, and every single time I get to this point, usually when I'm younger, maybe not this time as much, but usually I start tweaking out, like screaming in excitement about like the lore drop about Hope's Peak Academy and all that. I just get so happy, like unconditionally. This is one of like the best moments in the entire game for me, like by far. Seeing cutscenes from all the other games put together is such a nice moment of fan service. So anyways, Shuichi goes to scout out the place and genuinely has a pleasant conversation with Kaito, which really did bring him back up for me. Not much, but it was absolutely worth noting. It's a very tender moment that I love to see. Big fan. Dude, my voice is just... So afterwards, the next morning begins, where they basically go to the hangar to save Kaito, and... You're lying! Oh my god! I'm just kidding, I already knew about this. No! No! Yeah, we can't catch a fucking break this chapter. So, there's a new killer and victim. But who's who? Find out next time on the... Nah, I'm just kidding. It's trial time. First thing I'll say is that this trial is fantastic, as always. However, what makes this one that is so much better than the previous chapters is truly how many twists and turns there were before we finally got down to the true mystery. I mean, first it was Kokichi, then it was Kaito, then it was Kokichi, then it was Kaito. Like, this chapter really tries to play with your brain juices and confusing the living shit out of you. And by God, does it do exactly that. I mean, so much is always going on. It gets to a point where even Monokuma has to team up with you. There's so many detached storylines that make you sit there and wonder, how could they possibly come together? And then when they do, it's just absolutely jaw-dropping. Chapter 5 is always the divisive chapter in a Danganronpa game. I mean, the very first gimmick was having the main character get falsely accused, whilst the second was a suicide to eliminate the traitor. When it comes to Chapter 5, Danganronpa seriously does not fuck around. Not even the mystery alone is what makes this trial so good. It's the characters. Other than Tsumugi. Like, I hate to say it, but she really is a walking nothing burger. She's literally the only one in the room who had little to no involvement in this case, and she offers almost nothing of value to say the entire time. It's honestly fucking sad how boring of a character she is. I'm sure it's intentional given the fact that she's the but intentional or not, she's just not a fun character to have around. It doesn't matter if the writers made it so she's intentionally bad. She's bad. She's not fun to have around, and she does nothing for this trial. But of course, she has to survive for the main twist at the end, so I guess she gets a pass. Everyone else was on some top tier character timing, dude. Like, Maki's whole story about wanting to take down Kokichi no matter what it took, Himiko's insistence that Kokichi is the culprit, and some of the funny lines that go with it, and of course, Kibo just... So anyways, especially with Maki, I talked before about how their relationship is very, very strong. Almost anything that either of these two characters do in the second half of the game involve and very deeply affect each other. And of course, given the fact that what Kokichi's doing is just borderline atrocity, it makes sense that by this trial, Maki's done with him. She wants to kill him by any means necessary. Which is, of course, why the first start of the trial is really just about getting Maki to shut the fuck up. So, okay, I'm sorry. But once we do get past that, the trial gets a lot more fun. But those two aside, even Himiko has some nice moments. Finally being able to fully grow out of her shell after Chapter 3. Chapter 4, she was doing a great job expressing herself. But Chapter 5 is where she really does come into her own, especially in the trial. Like I was saying before in other videos, Himiko has truly become like one of my top characters. I find her to be absolutely hilarious, and it's here where she really comes into her own and really makes me laugh the most I've ever laughed at her. So I will always appreciate Himiko for that. And even though she does have a very minor role in the trial, unlike Tsumugi, at least she has a role, and at least she's cementing herself as part of the group. Tsumugi is just there. And I mean, even Kibo has a very minimal role, but at least he has a role. And of course, that's redundant because he does serve a very, very big purpose right after the execution, which I'm sure you could say for Tsumugi too, but at least Kibo is likable, okay? I just feel like this trial, mystery aside, was very rich in character. You can tell these guys have grown as people. They've grown together as a unit, and it's beautiful to see what they become by the end of the chapter. Except Tsumugi, who continues to do absolutely fucking nothing the entire time. Her aside, though, they bounce off each other so well, and V3, like I always say, does play favorites, but these final casts really do feel like a family, and it's really nice to see how they interact, especially in this last chapter right before everything just falls apart. But of course, if we're gonna talk about family, we have to talk about Kaito. And listen, I know I've been hating on Kaito a bunch in this video, because you cannot deny that this entire chapter he's been a bitch, but finally, he stands up and does something valuable. At the end of the trial, he just gets out of the exit stall and just not only gives a retrospective on Kokichi's life, basically, but admits to being the culprit, which saved everyone's skin because Shuichi was about to get everyone killed, bro. An action that truly does represent how much Kaito loves his friends. Ending the killing game is important, of course it is, but that's absolutely nothing compared to his friends. Even the slightest chance that they may not survive is enough to convince him to fly out of that exit stall and effectively get himself killed. The relationship Kaito has with everyone, not even just the remaining cast, but Kokichi and everyone else who passed away is truly something special. And like I said, I've been hating on Kaito a bunch in this video, but there is no denying the impact he's had on each and every one of these characters and the game as a whole. Nobody would be alive if it wasn't for Kaito. It's because of him that Shuichi was able to grow past Kaede. It's because of Kaito that Himiko was able to push past the deaths of Anchi and Tenko. And of course, it's because of Kaito that Maki was able to grow out of her shell and make some friends. He is by far one of the most important characters in this game, and that should be denied by nobody, which of course is what makes his death so sad. the way him and Kokichi so desperately fight against each other over the ideals of truth, lies, emotions, logic is what makes them killing each other so much more impactful. The reveal that Kokichi truly did hate the killing game enough to collaborate with Kaito to try to end it once and for all. Two mortal enemies actually working together on something for a common goal just shows that Kaito was really ready to just put away his pride and do something to help his friends. And of course, I could go on and on about the Kaito and Kokichi retrospective, with whether or not which ideological view was better or worse, where Kaito may have fallen or where Kokichi may have fallen. Well, we could talk forever. But at the end of the day, what everyone needs to realize is that both of these characters, just like Angie, just like everyone else, maybe not everyone else, was trying to end the killing game. And this was the last and, of course, the most effective method that we've seen so far. You can hate on Kokichi all you want, but at the end of the day, you have to say that he cared. He tried his absolute best from beginning to end. And what makes Kokichi so interesting as a character is that you never really know where he was lying and where he was telling the truth. It's up to you to believe whether or not he was truly afraid of dying, or whether or not he was truly just trying to be entertaining. You'll never know. And to Kaito, one of the most emotionally intelligent, emotionally aware people in the group, he has no idea. These two characters are truly two sides of the same coin, and seeing them go out the way they do is nothing short of a masterpiece. Chapter 5, especially with Kaito and Kokichi, is one of the most perfect Danganronpa trials I've ever seen. Ever. And it only gets better when Maki reveals that she is in love with Kaito, where everything just comes together all over again. A full retrospective on everything that's happened so far, and how Maki truly does have feelings for Kaito, something that nobody would ever expect because Danganronpa has never been a game with romance in its main plot. But here, she outright says it, and that hits hard. The way she screams, she's never felt anything like this before. It's truly emotional, only for him to die like literally like 30 seconds later. It really, really hits. But as I'm sure everyone knows, this trial has been picked clean by so many people, so I'm gonna end it there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Goodbye. Trial is a big deal. I mean, compared to all 5 of the characters left, everyone has something to live for, except for Tsumugi. Fuck Tsumugi. But I mean, at the end of the day, does anything really matter? None of this is real anyway. I mean, it's all fiction, right? Right? Yeah, just kidding. This shit's not gonna be creepy. Welcome back to the show where I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want. And we finally made it to Chapter 6. It's been such a long journey. And before we start the review, I want to stop to thank you all so much for being a part of this amazing part of my YouTube journey. If you haven't already, please like and sub. I love you all so much, and I'm so excited for what comes next. But before we even start talking about my plans coming up, let's hop straight into Chapter 6. Easily the most controversial chapter ever created. Starting off strong, we got... Huh? The fuck are you... Oh! Man. God, fuck my hopes up, bro. I thought it was Makoto. That's, disappointing. Well, anyways, this weird-ass kid is foreshadowing something very interesting. He goes on talking about his boring life, low-key giving off school shooter vibes, and just magically feels better because of some weird thing on his phone. Well, we don't really get a chance to think about that because, oh my god, Kibo's blowing up the school! So, of course, in an effort to get him to stop, everyone runs to the courtyard to get his attention, and immediately it's made clear that this dude is nothing like the Kibo we know and love. He seems different, but I'm not sure how exactly. His personality just seems a lot more dry, I guess? I don't really know. But anyways, they make it clear that this guy genuinely just goes ham on trying to end the killing game using this crazy shit in his lab. And I mean, finally, dude. There was no way his lab was seriously gonna go underused after all the cool ass shit they had in there. Mew would have loved this, man. After some negotiation with Shuichi, Kiba decides not to kill everyone and give the rest of the remaining students a set amount of time to try to end the killing game on their own accord. So, unlike other chapters, here the entire chapter is just daily life in Triumph. No daily life this time around, which is honestly good since I was getting a bit tired of it anyways. And so, the Ultimate Academy became a battlefield as Shuichi frantically searches the entire academy for clues that could somehow lead to the end of the Ultimate Academy and the killing game itself. And so, the group splits up, courtesy of Maki's very new characteristic of being just so cute and adorable. Like on some nonchalant shit for sure though. And so, we literally can't get access to anything now. What the why? So we go down this long-ass hallway that leads to, you'll never believe me when I say this, Kokichi's talent room. But before we even get into anything specific about the talent room, I think it's just kind of weird, honestly. I don't know what you guys were expecting, but the first time I saw this, I just thought it was a little childish, I guess. Despite that though, I'm still a super big fan. It really did exceed my expectations visually. It's very appealing, and it fits Kokichi's childish personality more than his talent, which is honestly a total win in my book. It really tips you off how loose his talent and the whole talent gimmick is getting by season fucking 53. Also unrelated, but Maki's almost theatrical sigh is genuinely hilarious. Especially at like 3 AM, dude. So anyway, we investigated. On the floor is a book with the complete history of Hope's Peak Academy. Apparently, there's some weird inconsistencies in the book, though. Wonder when that'll come up. Maki explains literally the entire lore of the game, and yet, despite being very educated on the complete history of Hope's Peak, I was confused. I genuinely had no idea what the inconsistencies were until like after the trial. It was so weird to me that I couldn't do it, but I don't know, man. Maybe I'm dumb. But anyways, after that happened, Shuichi gets a weird flashback about this kid, and the kid keeps calling the participants like heroes or something, which Shuichi heavily disagrees with. But off topic, but why the fuck does every kid in this game have a bowl cut? Is that just like the only haircut in Japan? Man, I know there's much better haircuts in Japan. I mean, I'm black, and I've seen people with dreads. Like, literal dread. Like, respectfully, I know Japan could do better than this, bro. Like, okay, never mind. Never mind. Once we finally get past that stupid-ass flashback, we go to backtrack to explore Kokichi's room a little bit more, which, to be honest, was a major mystery I had never even thought about. But I mean, now that they brought it up, I'm actually really curious to see what's inside here. There could be anything. Maybe he's secretly a clean— Oh, great heavens! Why is it so fucking dirty in here? Ew! He's got all kinds of shit in here. Key items from past cases, fake blueprints, and so much more. Oh, wait, hold on. There's a bug on the screen. I think it's coming from Kokichi's, filth. Hold on. Either way, what really matters is the whiteboard in the back. It's not very important to the grand scheme of things, but it's interesting to see Kokichi's thoughts and opinions of basically everyone, even if it's just who murdered who. That aside, we go into the room and find some blueprints for some kind of air sucker, I don't know. But more importantly, it's revealed that Kokichi literally got his own motive video, which explains why he was acting such a fool during chapter 2. Like, this dude is a fucking fraud. Not only is his organization not impressive, but it's literally only 10 people. 10 loyal goons. Like, bro, I'm fucking serious. To be honest, in the original script, I spent some more time making fun of him, but honestly, I think this is a really cool idea. The motive video highlights truly how much of a child he was, much like his talent room. He obviously was very secretive and intelligent, but this consistent showing of his childlike nature tells us that he may have been putting up a front of malice since the very start. Now that's where the theories start. Where do the lies stop? Where do they end? Was he really a good or bad person? Personally, using the game's repeated instance to bring up these childish themes whenever discussing Kokichi, I'm of the opinion that he had good intentions. Kokichi is a bully, but in a way that a child would be one. He doesn't resort to any type of direct violence that isn't a calculated move, and it really boils down to surface level insults. Of course, when he did get his chance to get his hands dirty, there was an agenda involved. The deaths of Gonta and Mew was meant to serve as a power move to set up his fake persona as the mastermind. I would like to think that Kokichi tried to end the killing game, but fell short when his childish nature and manipulative tendencies clashed and caused conflict. On one hand, he displays a pretty mature understanding of the human emotion and processes above average observational skills and deductive reasoning. Exhibit A of that would be in the end of the third trial, where he gives Himiko some advice on human emotions. Advice that I honestly think is so good that I'm just gonna let the whole scene play out.
So dumb. Huh? Because I'm a liar. But...
Right?
Nuh-uh. Because... Hey!
Exhibit B would be the reason he even killed Gonta in the first place. I mean, he did it specifically because he knew how strongly everyone else would react, and how much it would further antagonize him. All this is to say that Kokichi is definitely considered smart, and all of the things he does in this game have intention. Dare I say, he's intelligent. Yet his stubbornness to work alone and refusal to ever be serious around anyone was ultimately his downfall. He failed to mature as a person and trust those around him, thus leading to the mastermind monopolizing the situation and turning everyone on Kokichi for good. That being said, my interpretation is by no means the absolute truth, and I would love to hear what you guys think. So please comment below, because any kind of opinion on Kokichi I love to read. He's a very complicated character who could have all kinds of different interpretations, so please let me know. So anyways, here's a clue about twins or something. Oh, excuse me, can you move over, please? Thank you. Ah, dude! What the hell, man? Why would you... Oh, hey. Cool animation. So while I'm actually talking about Kibo, something that's weird to me is, like, I understand when he loses his ahoge, he loses his inner voice. That makes sense. As mentioned in the game, it serves as an antenna to make contact with the audience, but does it warrant this strong of a change? Like, what else did the ahoge do? There's no way the absence of his inner voice completely revamped his personality like that. It was so sudden that it was almost unnatural enough to have taken me out of the immersion. Whatever immersion you can get from a Danganronpa game. It bothers me, so if anyone in the comments could explain that to me, it would be a huge help. So we finally make it to Rantaro's talent room, and wait, what? Rantaro? Talent room? I thought I'd never see the day. So we finally get in, and we're greeted with a puzzle. Yay. Oh, wait, that was actually kind of easy. So remember that video we saw at the start of Chapter 4? Well, guess what? We can finally see the whole video. After all this time, isn't that just that's so great, man? You know it's great. Blah, 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 blah. Basically, big reveal, Rantaro is the ultimate survivor. How awesome is that? A master of death games who manages to die first. But you know what? That's okay. I bet it's one of those things where you have to perfectly understand a test to be able to get a 0%. You know, I bet he was just so good at it that he knew exactly how to get himself fucking killed. You know? I mean, I'm sure that's it, man. I just miss Rantaro, dude. Oh, so anyways, there's a new flashback light. This one's kind of unimportant. I mean, you can tell because Shuichi's friends genuinely can't get any more plain. So moving on. So shortly after that, Plain Jane asks us to go find Kaito's talent room because there's a massive fucking hole in the wall and we gotta find out what's in there. Anyways, there's another flashback light all about the characters together right before the killing game. allegedly. And it's even revealed, oh my god, that Kaede has a twin sister, which is odd, but like, whatever.
This flashback light is also kind of useless to me, but it is interesting since, you know, it's the first time I get to see your probably dead favorite character in a while.
Tenko! Oh my god, Tenko, I missed you!
I guess it's pretty good, or whatever.
Once we got that out of the way, Puichi wants to investigate the library as a nice send-off to, Kaede, and, not Rantaro. Yeah, okay, I lied. He just wants to figure out a way to find against that creepy-ass door we never got to. So after having Kiba show up and fucking obliterate the door, it's time to investigate the flashiest and more visually appealing room in the game, aside from Tenko and Angie's talent rooms respectively. I gotta bring them up every video. These characters are just so goated to me. This time, we actually learned something interesting. Turns out the Monokuma factory has been upgraded into generative AI. So basically, this is Mother Kuma, who essentially just births Monokumas. The Monokuma maker here relies on the command only the mastermind knows to create, give birth to a Monokuma. So the way you say it is very important.
I know what you did.
So Rantaro, what? Dude, I can't read what that says. Oh, his survivor perk. So this was mentioned in the video, but Rantaro was given this survivor pad thing as kind of a tip as to how to end the killing game, which is awesome sauce, but it also got him killed. So like, basically, it's an iPad with a map of the entire school with a tip from his past self about how the mastermind makes new Monokumas. Cool stuff, but ultimately it was useless to him. Real sad. His old self told him to only share with people he trusted, yet he shared it with literally everyone. Moving along, there is more very, very interesting things in this room, and I'm sure you know what it is. It's the two metal balls with pink fiber.
So after that piece of news, which honestly makes Shuichi's heart tremble a little bit, we get yet another flashback light. I'm getting real fucking sick of these, bro. This one is about Monokuma wiping everyone's memories right after they get out of the containment unit thing. Also, he can restart the killing game all over again. And honestly, at this point, I'm sure you guys are too. These flashback lights are pissing me off. So I'm skipping it. Himiko gets trapped behind a bunch of rubble in the area we were just in, and now we gotta move on, fuck her. So moving along, we end up in this classroom, and boy do I have something to say about it.
So, you know, this is kind of random, but, you know, this is the only fucking time you need to use the slap mechanic. Are you fucking serious? So, this is awkward. Flashback light creator or whatever. I'm definitely not supposed to see this, man.
But hey, you know what? Now that I know this is here, you know, these are pretty useful tools. I could probably end up the next mastermind of, you know, the next killing game.
Oh my god, hi Himiko.
And with all the evidence we gathered, Monokuma basically offers up no kind of resistance to a trial, and here we are. It's trial time.
So, just like every other Danganronpa game that we've had so far, the 6th trial is obviously very different from the rest of them. In V3, there's absolutely no difference there. First of all, not only is there no victim, but we're actually reinvestigating a past case. Historically, Danganronpa games try to use the 6th trial as like a lore dump, essentially, to figure out what the truth behind the school is, and that's no different here with V3. What is different, though, is, of course, the reinvestigation. In this case, it's a reinvestigation of Rantaro and... Wait, who are you again? Oh, the girl protag! I forgot. Remember when we went to that weird area with Mother Kuma and the trash bag and the 2 metal balls? Well, that metal ball is actually extremely relevant. If you remember, the metal ball is what Kaede used to basically slime out Rantaro, so seeing a second one with a pink fiber on it is a little weird, no? Shuichi knows the answer as soon as he sees it, but we spend the first half of the trial, not even half really, but third of it, basically going over the murder case one more time and reconvicting a certain someone of their crime that was kept hidden. Going over the entire murder case again, something becomes really strange. The pink fiber with the metal ball is obviously a signification that the metal ball that Kaede had didn't actually kill Rantaro. So then how did the killer manage to get a second shot put ball and avoid all of the cameras in the library? I don't know. Now that's the central question that we're trying to answer. Of course, it's pretty easy. You'll never guess this shit, but it turns out none other than Plain Jane, otherwise known as Samugi, yeah, I know, Samugi killed him. And listen, bro, I
already didn't like Tsumugi, but the fact that he killed Rantaro, who could have been the most goated character in Danganronpa, pisses me off, bro. I fucking hate Tsumugi, bro. I'm so glad she killed him. But of course, instead of actually getting her execution, turns out...
I see. So that's your reaction to seeing an extra-large high school girl.
So fucking hopeless!
I'm shocked you call me this thing. Oh, you're so mean.
Of course not. She's not redeeming. Because she still sucks. She killed Rantaro. She's boring. And she's the mastermind?
She's an angel, like a food cake. Got a halo and I'm looking like a double take. Dream with me, I'ma be a e-boy. You know my diamond, hey, I know I'm a bad boy. I've been looking in the dark full of jelly beans. Fly me to the moon, fly up in Tennessee. Maybe I'll find you, yeah, we were meant to be. With the ring pop, I'll get down on one knee.
Dude, pick a fucking struggle. God damn. Oh yeah, also I forgot to mention this entire time the Monokufs have been completely getting obliterated, but no one cares about them, so we're skipping that. On a real note though, it is actually really sad. The characters, even though the audience doesn't like her, really love Tsumugi. It's a really emotional moment where someone who we've been fighting with so long and going through so much struggle turns out to be the mastermind. It's honestly really sadistic, and it's a really nice change of pace compared to the mastermind being someone basically completely uninvolved in the active cast. The idea that this whole time, someone who's been fighting so hard alongside us turns out to be secretly betraying us the entire time? I mean, I'm surprised they haven't done it sooner. I mean, it's genuinely really nice to see. Even though it's very sad, it's nice. Because it's something new. That's exactly what I've been looking for with these Danganronpa games. Something new. And V3 is always about doing something new. I mean, after all, that is why it's called New Danganronpa V3. But you wanna know what isn't new? Reintroducing Junko Enoshima for the 3rd time in a row. Why is she back? How is she back? What is going on? I don't understand. I don't want to know. Like, what? Junko Enoshima is back yet again, and it turns out Tsumugi is still not as interesting as you'd think she is. She just has a cool ability, I guess. And even worse, because of this reveal, we finally get to realize that Kokichi is just not a remnant despair at all. This is actually just some normal ass guy. Tsumugi and all of her bullshit aside, however, what I think is actually interesting is Junko Enoshima herself. Not because it's Junko Enoshima for the 3rd time in a row, but because there's a number next to her name. That number being 53. Now, 53 is a lot different from any other number you've seen, like 1 word 0, 3, 7, whatever. This one is actually interesting because, lo and behold, it's not Danganronpa 3, it's not Danganronpa 2, but Danganronpa fucking 53. Now, despite all the bullshit that everyone's been spouting through these flashback lights, Shuichi notices something is off. Not only is the memories that they've been given completely inconsistent with the documents given in the game, but Junko Enoshima herself just shouldn't fucking be alive right now. On top of that, the flashback light creator that Shuichi found, it's all meant to add up to one final conclusion. I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this. Hachitoa is not real.
So who the hell are you? I'm me, no one else.
Ah! That's right. For all the hours you spent playing all these different Danganronpa games, guess what? None of it matters, because none of them are fucking real anyway. Is what the game wants you to think, and we'll get back to that point a little later. But to backtrack just a little bit, let's go back to that 53 for a second. That's right, we've been at this shit for 53 seasons. Danganronpa has evolved itself into not just a game series, but an entire game show with its own meta world where it becomes the most popular TV show in existence, and all of a sudden they have 53 installments of it. Which, you know what, while I'm on that, let me just explain how this lore shit works, like right now on Microsoft Paint, just so there's no confusions. So, starting off here, we're gonna just draw a circle. This circle is, the whole humanity, just like, entirely, like the real world, like, not the real world as in, like, Danganronpa V3 real world, but like us. You watching this video right now. And then, like, within that sphere, you know, we got, a fictional reality where it's like, oh, I should use a different color, though. So here we got a Danganronpa V3, their, like, fictional world, so, like, within our world, there's a fictional world, which is in here, and then within that fictional world is the Danganronpa canon, right? And then V3, basically, is in this canon, right? But then by the end of the series... Whoa, too far. At the end of the series, they break out into here. No, they break out into here within the realm of, like, the real world. That's, like, not... Like, the world outside of V3. By escaping the hopefully canon, but not going, you know? So, yeah, that's basically how it works. If you thought you were tired of this shit, imagine how they feel. They've gone through this shit 53 times, and they're still not tired of it. So, all the Junko Enoshima is not interesting at all by this point. What is interesting is what comes with her, which is her ability to swap between literally every fictional Danganronpa character from the past games that we've played as, and on top of that, revealing the fact that we've been in Danganronpa for 53 seasons by this point. If you've ever been wondering, why is Tsumugi suddenly the president? Why does Kokichi have an ultimate talent that doesn't mean fucking shit? The reason is because this game has been going on so long that the writers are literally running out of ideas. Imagine your game being so meta that you write in the fact that you're running out of ideas while running out of ideas. That's how meta we get with this game, and honestly, I can't help but actually enjoy that. The ending, of course, is going to be controversial just because of its nature, but what they do here is actually really cool. Whether or not you guys agree with the fact that everything was technically fiction or not, what I think is undeniable is that what they do here is unique. And when it comes to Danganronpa and kind of media in general, finding something unique is hard these days. Kodaka himself literally said that he knew that it'd be very controversial, which is honestly interesting. It's good for a game designer to actually try something new and take a risk here, and honestly, I think the risk paid off, if not anyone else. I mean, on top of that, it's also just nice seeing characters from the old games that you love. Like, I remember when I fucking screamed when Ibuki showed up, or Hiyoko. All these characters get to have their own appearance, and it's honestly really nice. However, it all crashes and burns when it turns out everything's fiction. Like I mentioned before, Tsumugi or Junko or whatever can basically cosplay as every fucking character in the game, and that's because, if you remember, Tsumugi can only cosplay, what is it now? That's right, fictional characters. Which means all the characters you've gotten to know, hate, watch their horrible deaths for hundreds of hours basically means nothing now, because it doesn't matter anyway if it's all fake, is what you would think originally. Over time, I think that since I've been through this game so many times and I've seen so many opinions, I think people are forgetting the main point of the ending here. The whole idea that fiction can change reality is supposed to help you find solace in the fact that even if nothing is real, they still matter, and there's still parts of them that are real. I mean, if you think back, remember Chiaki from Danganronpa 2? She passed on and she was an AI. She literally said herself that so long as the actions she took to build a better future for everyone else still exists, then no matter how fictional, no matter how real or fake she was still real at some level.
No matter what kind of future it is, as long as you guys move toward it, I will never disappear. I'll be cheering for you too.
And yeah, it's gonna hurt when your favorite game series calls their favorite characters fake and that you're not valid for liking them, but A, they never said you're not valid for liking them, and B, this game has gone again and again to tell you that no matter how much things are real or fake, they still have an effect, and that's completely okay. Now, of course, I'm not expecting everyone to like this ending. I, of course, understand why it's divisive, and I myself haven't gone through a lot of research to see what other complaints people have, but in my personal opinion, this ending is pretty good. It is heart-wrenching to see that all of this is fiction, but the whole idea that fiction can change reality is what they're trying to hammer home. That it doesn't matter if things are fiction. At the end of the day, so long as they had an effect on you, they're real in some way. And that's what I think the message of Danganronpa V3, and honestly Danganronpa as a whole, is about. I mean, no matter what you may think, if you give the opinion that Danganronpa V3's ending basically hammers home the idea that all of your favorite characters are not real and don't matter just because they don't happen to be, like, in the official canon, then you can use that exact same logic to say that although they're not in the canon, just like the game is trying to tell you that fiction can change reality, that it doesn't fucking matter. These characters should mean a lot to you regardless on whether or not they're real. Their effects on your real life are still there, regardless on if the game decides to tell you if what happens is real or not in their meta-fictional world. None of that matters. These characters are loved by so many people, and it doesn't fucking matter if they're real or not. They're already fake anyway. You're playing a goddamn video game, for Christ's sake. So at the end of the day, although V3's ending is definitely controversial, I just personally do enjoy it. And I can understand why people wouldn't like it, but come on now, it's Danganronpa. What's a Danganronpa game without some kind of arguing or controversy? Danganronpa V3 has to be at least one of my favorite games of all time. Through all of the crazy cutscenes, the CGs, the arguing, all of the controversy, this game holds a very special place in my heart. And seeing the ending, although, like I said, upset a lot of people, for me personally, it was closure that I think I needed. Seeing the final 3 survivors, that being Shuichi, Maki, and Himiko, kinda gave me hope in life that you can always look forward to a better future, and that fiction truly can change reality. Moving forward, I don't know if I'm going to be immediately working on any new Danganronpa content for the next little bit, but I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video and being alongside me for this crazy, more than year-long ride talking about Danganronpa V3. I'll have a video compiling every single chapter review into one big video with maybe a couple bonus scenes, and we'll see how that goes. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time for something new. See ya.
幸せでも